The council hall of Zithara stretched high into the sky, a shimmering structure of crystalline light that reflected the twin suns above. Inside, dozens of Ilithians, tall and elegant beings with translucent skin that glowed faintly in different colors, gathered in solemn silence. Their eyes, sharp and luminous, were fixed on the entrance. Today was not an ordinary council meeting. Today a human had come, a species they had long considered weak, fragile, and incapable of true strength. The doors opened with a soft hum, and all heads turned. Standing in the threshold was Captain Marcus Hale, a human warrior of notable height and solid build, wearing sleek, functional armor that gleamed faintly in the hall's light. His presence alone drew murmurs from the crowd. Marcus walked steadily toward the central platform, his boots making firm, deliberate sounds on the crystalline floor. There was no fear in his expression, only calm confidence. Among the council members, a young female Ilithian named Lyra leaned forward slightly, her amber eyes glinting with amusement. She whispered to the being next to her, and a soft laugh escaped her lips. "A human," she said. "They are fragile creatures. Does he really think he can face the elders?" Her voice carried lightly across the hall, barely hiding her disbelief. Marcus halted in the center of the platform. He raised his head to meet the gaze of Elder Queen Serathine, who sat at the far end of the hall on her elevated throne of crystal. Her presence was commanding, centuries of wisdom reflected in the soft glow of her eyes. She observed the human with calm curiosity, her long, flowing robe shimmering with every subtle movement. The hall fell completely silent, awaiting her word. Lyra's laughter faded into a smirk as she crossed her arms. She was ready to see the human humiliated. Yet before she could voice any further mockery, Elder Queen Serathine spoke. Her voice, serene but firm, echoed in the chamber. "Show him respect." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of centuries. The room stiffened. Murmurs died immediately, and Lyra blinked in surprise, caught off guard by the command. Marcus inclined his head slightly, acknowledging the queen's order with the faintest hint of a smile. It was not arrogance, but quiet understanding. He knew that respect here was both a challenge and a test. The humans had often been underestimated, yet it was in these moments of doubt that their greatest strengths appeared. The council began their questioning. Each Ilithian elder spoke in measured tones, their questions designed to probe the humans' courage, skill, and understanding of alien cultures. Marcus answered honestly, calmly, never once showing fear. He spoke of his experiences traveling across human colonies, of battles fought not only with weapons but with intelligence, strategy, and unity. Lyra's smirk returned, faint but sharp. She could not understand why a single human stood so composed before beings who had lived for centuries. "Surely," she whispered to herself, "he cannot possibly endure the tests of the Crimson Arena. Humans are weak. They are short-lived. What can he do against beings who think in centuries?" Elder Queen Serathine's gaze never wavered from Marcus. She noticed subtle details, the way he held himself, the precision in his movements, the quiet strength that did not rely on showmanship. "He is different," she said softly to herself. "He does not display arrogance. He does not seek to dominate, only to endure and understand." Her observation was made in the knowledge that the council would debate for hours over his fate. But she saw something the others did not: potential. The human remained silent after the initial questioning, awaiting the next stage. The council was not yet convinced, but the Queen's command had forced them to treat him with fairness. Marcus glanced briefly at Lyra, whose eyes flared with a mixture of challenge and curiosity. There was no hatred in her gaze, only disbelief slowly turning into intrigue. The spark of a rivalry, or perhaps respect, had been lit. As the first meeting concluded, the council chamber slowly emptied, though the tension lingered. Marcus stood alone for a moment, feeling the weight of alien eyes upon him. He understood that this was only the beginning. Every move, every word would be scrutinized. Yet he also understood that humans had an advantage unknown to many Ilithians: adaptability, courage, and the refusal to yield to fear, no matter the opponent. Outside the hall, the twin suns reflected off Marcus's armor, casting long shadows across the crystalline courtyard. Lyra watched him from a distance, arms still crossed. She could not explain why, but something about him unsettled her expectations. This human was unlike any other she had seen. Perhaps Elder Queen Seraphine had been wise. Perhaps, just perhaps, he deserved not mockery but respect. The wind of Zithara swept across the courtyard, carrying with it the scent of the strange, glowing flora that surrounded the palace. Marcus took a deep breath. Today he had arrived as a human warrior mocked by a single laugh. Tomorrow he would face challenges that would test not only his strength but his mind, heart, and honor. The game had begun. The day of the trial arrived, and the massive gates of the Crimson Arena opened with a low hum that reverberated across the courtyard. Marcus Hale stepped forward, his boots crunching on the polished crystal floor. The arena was vast, circular, and surrounded by towering walls that glimmered with energy shields. Ilithians filled the upper tiers, their eyes shining with curiosity and doubt. Whispers traveled across the crowd, questioning how a human could survive what generations of their kind had deemed the ultimate test. Lyra leaned over the edge of the stands, her expression a mixture of amusement and skepticism. "This human thinks he can face the arena," she said softly to the being beside her. "He will fall in seconds. We will laugh, and then the council will have their example of human weakness." Marcus did not flinch. He studied the arena carefully. Every trial in the past had been a mixture of physical skill, strategy, and mental agility. He could see the patterns, the traps, and the hidden mechanisms within the environment. His mind worked quickly, calculating possibilities while his body remained calm and ready. The arena doors slammed shut behind him, signaling the start of the first trial. From the ceiling, glowing orbs of energy descended, shifting and spinning in unpredictable patterns. They were not lethal, but they could knock a warrior off balance or trap them in a vulnerable position. Marcus took a measured step forward, his senses alert. He dodged, rolled, and leapt with precision, timing each movement to the rhythm of the spinning orbs. The Ilithians in the stands murmured in surprise. Lyra's smirk began to falter as she observed him. Marcus moved with patience and purpose, not relying on raw strength like many Ilithians would. Instead, he observed patterns, predicted movements, and made small but calculated risks. He did not rush. Each step he took was deliberate, proving that his human endurance and strategic mind could compete with centuries of Ilithian experience. The first trial ended when Marcus reached a glowing platform at the center of the arena. He raised his hand slightly, signaling completion. The crowd fell silent for a moment, unsure how to react. The Elder Queen Seraphine, seated high above, nodded approvingly. Her eyes gleamed with quiet satisfaction. "He is learning quickly," she whispered to herself. "He does not fight with arrogance. He fights with thought." The second trial was more physical. The arena shifted into a maze of shifting walls and floating platforms. Ilithians often relied on their telekinetic abilities to manipulate objects or bypass obstacles. Marcus, lacking these powers, had to rely on agility, timing, and observation. He watched the platforms carefully, noting how they moved in cycles. With careful steps, he navigated the maze, avoiding pitfalls and using momentum to jump across gaps that seemed impossible. Lyra, frustrated and intrigued at the same time, began to see something unusual. Marcus was not simply surviving. He was adapting. He turned each challenge into an opportunity to learn, to study, and to overcome. She realized that no human she had ever encountered had this combination of courage and cleverness. The laughter that had come so easily to her earlier had disappeared, replaced by an uneasy awareness. In the final stage of the trial, Marcus faced a series of holographic opponents, each simulating a different Ilithian fighting style. They attacked with speed, precision, and psychic energy. Most humans would have been overwhelmed within seconds. Marcus, however, observed patterns in their attacks. He moved in a way that minimized risk, countering when necessary and using misdirection to gain small advantages. Each opponent fell back in defeat one by one until Marcus stood alone in the center of the arena. A hush fell over the Ilithians in the stands. The young warrior had completed the trials without injury, without panic, and without breaking his focus. The murmurs shifted from doubt to surprise, and even a few admiring glances were exchanged among the council members. Lyra could not hide her astonishment. She had expected a human to fail spectacularly, yet here he was, calm, collected, and clearly capable of more than she had imagined. Elder Queen Seraphine's voice rang through the arena, gentle but commanding. "Marcus Hale has shown us that courage and thought are as powerful as strength and tradition. Today we see that respect is not a matter of age or species, but of action and honor. Her proclamation caused a stir among the council and spectators alike. Marcus bowed slightly, acknowledging both the queen and the audience. He did not celebrate, knowing that this was only the beginning. The Ilithians had underestimated him and he had proven them wrong, but greater challenges awaited. Lyra approached the edge of the arena, her expression unreadable. She could not deny the skill, determination, and intelligence she had witnessed. A small spark of respect flickered in her eyes, though she would not admit it aloud. The gates of the arena opened once more, signaling the end of the trial and the beginning of the next stage of Marcus's journey. The human warrior had survived the challenge that others thought impossible. He had faced doubt, laughter, and skepticism, and he had endured. As he stepped out into the courtyard, his mind was already preparing for what lay ahead, knowing that each step forward would bring him closer to proving that humans were not to be underestimated in the vast galaxy. The arena gates had closed behind him, but Marcus did not relax. He knew that surviving the trial was only part of the challenge. The Ilithian Council would test him in ways that required more than strength or strategy. They would test his character. The courtyard outside the arena was filled with beings of all shapes and colors, tall and short, glowing softly in the sunlight. Some whispered excitedly, while others cast doubtful glances at the human warrior. As Marcus walked slowly through the crowd, he noticed a small figure struggling near the edge of the courtyard. It was a young Ilithian, smaller than most, tangled in a web of energy nets that had fallen from a test chamber above. The youth struggled, panic in their eyes, unsure how to free themselves. Marcus's instincts kicked in immediately. He sprinted forward, careful not to touch the nets in the wrong way, and used his human ingenuity to find a weak point in the energy field. With precise timing, he triggered a small mechanism that released the nets, freeing the Ilithian without harm. The young Ilithian stared at him, wide-eyed. "You saved me?" they stammered. Marcus nodded simply. "No one should be left behind." "Not here, not anywhere," he said calmly. A ripple of approval passed through some of the nearby spectators. Even Lyra, watching from a distance, felt a strange twinge of surprise. Humans were supposed to be reckless, impulsive, or weak. This human, however, acted with courage and thoughtfulness in a way she could not ignore. Word of Marcus's action spread quickly. By the time he returned to the central hall, the council was already in session, discussing his performance. Whispers ran through the chamber. Some elders began to see the human in a new light, recognizing his intelligence, adaptability, and moral code. Talon, Lyra's older brother, leaned forward from his seat. He had always admired strength, but today he saw something else, a different kind of power. Lyra, however, remained seated stiffly, arms crossed. "It was just luck," she muttered. Yet her amber eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. Marcus was not just surviving, he was influencing others, inspiring respect without even trying. That was a skill few Ilithians possessed. The council called Marcus forward again, this time to discuss matters of strategy and alliance. They presented a scenario, a simulation of an interstellar conflict, where different species would have to work together to defend a vital system. Many Ilithians immediately assumed Marcus would fail. They thought humans could not think in complex, large-scale strategies. Marcus listened carefully. He asked questions, considered every variable, and proposed solutions that balanced defense, intelligence, and minimal risk to lives. The council members were surprised. His solutions were logical, efficient, and creative. Elder Queen Seraphine watched intently, a faint smile on her face. She had seen countless beings fail in their arrogance or hesitation, but Marcus approached every problem with clarity and courage. He did not seek personal glory, he sought results, and that was rare among the Ilithians. During a brief break, Lyra approached him, her curiosity getting the better of her. "How do you humans do it?" she asked, her voice quiet. "You survive challenges that even the strongest Ilithians struggle with. You think fast, adapt quickly, and yet you do not seem afraid." Marcus met her gaze evenly. "We have to," he replied simply. Our lives are short, but we rely on teamwork, observation, and quick thinking. Fear only slows us down. Lyra considered his words, realizing they held a truth she had never fully understood. Humans were not long-lived, not naturally strong, and often underestimated. Yet they had qualities Elythians had rarely cultivated: ingenuity, courage under pressure, and a moral code that guided action even when no one was watching. She felt a grudging respect for the human standing before her, and though she would not admit it aloud, she understood why the Elder Queen had ordered respect. The next test was announced, a collaborative exercise. Marcus was paired with Elythians, some skeptical, some curious, to solve a simulated crisis on a distant planet. The task required communication, observation, and quick problem-solving. Marcus led calmly, listening to the Elythians' ideas, adapting strategies and offering suggestions that improved their efficiency. Slowly, the team began to work together seamlessly. Even Lyra's brother, Talon, nodded in quiet approval. By the end of the exercise, Marcus had not only proven his skills, but had also earned the trust of several council members and younger warriors. He had survived the trials, inspired respect, and shown that humans were capable of leadership, not just survival. Lyra, observing from a distance, felt a mix of irritation and admiration. She had laughed at him before, certain of his weakness. Now she could not deny his abilities. Elder Queen Seraphine rose from her throne, her voice echoing through the chamber. Marcus Hale has shown that courage, intelligence, and honor are not bound by species. He has earned not just our respect, but our attention. Let this be the beginning of understanding between humans and Elythians. Marcus inclined his head, acknowledging her words. Though he remained humble, he understood the significance of this moment. He had not just survived, he had begun to change minds and hearts. As the council members discussed the next trials, Marcus felt a quiet determination settle over him. The challenges ahead would be greater, but he had proven that humans could face even the most daunting trials with courage, skill, and integrity. And somewhere in the gallery, Lyra's eyes followed him, a flicker of newfound respect hidden beneath her usual skepticism. The next trial was unlike any Marcus had faced before. The Crimson Arena, now empty of spectators, transformed into a vast labyrinth of light and shifting platforms. Its walls glimmered and moved, creating pathways that seemed impossible to predict. This was the test of minds, a challenge designed to measure intelligence, memory, and ethical judgment as much as physical skill. Marcus stepped forward carefully, observing the shifting corridors with a practiced eye. Lyra watched from above, her amber eyes narrowing. She had expected this trial to expose Marcus's limits. Humans were not long-lived, and Elythians had centuries of experience in mental agility and telepathic reasoning. Surely, she thought, he would falter here. But as Marcus began moving through the labyrinth, she noticed something that unsettled her. He was calm, deliberate, and aware of every detail. The first section of the labyrinth was a series of puzzles, each requiring logic and timing. Panels on the floor lit up in sequences, some triggering traps, others opening doors. Marcus paused briefly at each challenge, observing the patterns and predicting the correct moves. With careful steps, he navigated the first section flawlessly, avoiding hidden pitfalls and reaching the next area. The Elythians, observing from the stands, murmured among themselves. Even Talon, usually critical of outsiders, leaned forward with interest. The second section introduced illusions. Holographic images of Elythian warriors and strange creatures appeared, attempting to confuse and mislead him. Some paths led to dead ends, others looped back in circles. Marcus remained focused, relying on observation and logic rather than rushing forward. He noticed subtle inconsistencies in the illusions, the way light reflected differently, or the faint hum of a hidden mechanism. Slowly, he found the true path and advanced. Lyra's smirk, which had been so confident, began to fade. She whispered to a fellow council member, "How does he see through them? No human has ever done this. He notices everything, anticipates patterns." Her voice carried a mixture of awe and irritation. She had mocked him before, but now, with every step he took, it became clear that this human was more than a survivor. He was a thinker, a problem solver. The third section tested ethics and judgment. Holographic simulations projected scenarios where choices had to be made under pressure. A colony under attack could be saved, but only if a limited resource was used wisely. Marcus considered each situation carefully, weighing the consequences. He did not act recklessly, nor did he act selfishly. He prioritized outcomes that saved the most lives and minimized harm, even when shortcuts were tempting. Elder Queen Seraphine watched silently, her eyes gleaming with quiet satisfaction. Humans had a moral code that relied on empathy, courage, and reasoning. Marcus's decisions reflected not just intelligence, but humanity, a rare quality the Elythians valued, but often struggled to emulate. She whispered softly to herself, "He understands what we often forget. Power is not strength alone. True strength is wisdom and honor." The final section of the labyrinth combined speed, memory, and strategy. Paths shifted rapidly, doors closed unexpectedly, and illusions appeared to mislead. Marcus moved swiftly but carefully, using memory and pattern recognition to anticipate changes. His movements were precise, calculated, and graceful, as if he were dancing with the labyrinth itself. With every step, the maze seemed less threatening, as though it acknowledged his determination. Lyra, sitting higher in the stands, could no longer deny what she saw. Marcus was different. Humans were usually underestimated, dismissed as fragile and short-lived. But here was one who faced the impossible and adapted with intelligence, courage, and respect for the challenge. She felt an unfamiliar sense of respect for him, though she would not speak it aloud. Finally, Marcus reached the center of the labyrinth. The shifting wall stabilized, the illusions vanished, and a glowing platform rose to meet him. He had completed the test of minds. The Elythians erupted into quiet applause, their murmurs of surprise filling the chamber. Elder Queen Seraphine rose from her seat, her voice clear and commanding. "Marcus Hale has shown that intelligence, ethics, and courage are not bound by species. He has earned the respect of this council and the admiration of those who watch." Marcus bowed slightly, acknowledging the Queen's words. He did not boast, did not celebrate, he simply stood with calm determination. He understood that the labyrinth had tested more than his mind. It had tested his character, patience, and integrity. The human's ability to adapt and solve problems, combined with their courage and moral code, had carried him through. As he exited the arena, the sun of Zithera reflected off the crystalline floor, casting long shadows behind him. Lyra remained silent, her thoughts turning over what she had seen. She had laughed at him once, certain he was weak, but now her laughter was gone. Marcus Hale, the human warrior, had earned her attention, and perhaps in time her respect. The council would discuss the next trial soon, and Marcus knew the challenges would only grow more difficult. Yet after surviving the test of minds, he was more determined than ever. Humans may be underestimated, short-lived, and different, but their strength lay in their courage, intelligence, and unwavering determination. And Marcus Hale was about to prove it again. The arena had changed again, this time for a duel unlike any Marcus had faced before. Lyra, the young Elythian who had laughed at him when he first arrived, now stood across from him, her posture tall and confident. Her amber eyes were sharp, her movements precise, and her aura radiated the power of someone trained for centuries. She had accepted the challenge willingly, determined to prove that no human could match an Elythian warrior in combat. Marcus observed her calmly. He did not underestimate her strength, nor the speed and skill that came naturally to her kind. Yet he knew his advantage lay not in raw power, but in adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to read his opponent. Every movement, every glance, every subtle shift in weight could give him an opening. The duel began with a surge of energy. Lyra moved first, her limbs a blur as she struck with a combination of speed, strength, and telekinetic force. Marcus dodged and rolled, using momentum and timing to avoid her attacks. The crowd watched in awe as he avoided blows that seemed impossible to evade. Every step was deliberate, every action calculated. Lyra's expression tightened. She had expected the human to falter within moments, but he was not only surviving, he was adapting. When she tried a telekinetic push, Marcus used the arena's shifting platforms to counterbalance and remain upright. He moved strategically, forcing her to adjust her attacks repeatedly. His calm determination began to unsettle her. The duel intensified. Lyra unleashed a flurry of precise strikes, testing Marcus's reflexes. He responded with clever maneuvers, using the environment to his advantage. A low platform here, a reflective wall there. Each allowed him to redirect energy, anticipate movement, or avoid dangerous angles. His fighting style was not flashy but effective. It combined observation, timing, and ingenuity, qualities Elythians often overlooked in humans. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mixture of surprise and admiration. Marcus was not only surviving, he was controlling the pace of the duel. Lyra's movements, though powerful and graceful, began to show slight hesitation. She had never faced an opponent who could read her patterns so effectively and anticipate her strategies. Marcus did not strike recklessly. Instead, he created openings, drawing her into predictable patterns and exploiting them with precision. Despite the intensity of the battle, Marcus never attacked with cruelty. When he disarmed Lyra with a swift maneuver, he stepped back immediately, offering her a chance to regain her stance. This gesture of respect was unusual in the arena, where victory often required domination rather than honor. Lyra, caught off guard by his integrity, blinked. She had expected mockery, not respect. For a brief moment, the duel paused. Both warriors caught their breath, circling each other carefully. Lyra's amber eyes softened slightly as she studied Marcus. "You fight differently from any human I've ever known," she said, her voice steady but filled with curiosity. Marcus nodded. "We rely on thought, observation, and strategy. Strength is important, but knowing when to act is more important." The final exchange came swiftly. Lyra moved with incredible speed, striking from multiple angles. Marcus, anticipating her movements, countered gracefully, redirecting her energy and using the arena's terrain to his advantage. With one final maneuver, he disarmed her completely, causing her staff to spin out of reach. He did not press the advantage. Instead, he stepped back and lowered his guard, signaling that the duel was over. The arena erupted with applause and whispers. Many Elythians were astonished. They had expected the human to fail, to be defeated quickly by centuries of experience and power. Instead, Marcus had not only survived but had fought with skill, intelligence, and honor, earning the admiration of many. Even Lyra, who had once laughed at him, now looked at him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Elder Queen Seraphine rose from her throne, her voice clear and commanding. "Marcus Hale has shown that true strength is not measured by raw power alone. Courage, intelligence, and honor are qualities that transcend species. Let this duel stand as an example to all. Respect is earned through action and character, not by birthright or arrogance." Marcus nodded respectfully to the queen and then to Lyra. He knew that this victory was more than just winning a duel. It was about proving the value of humanity, their courage and their ingenuity. Lyra, breathing steadily, accepted his gesture silently. The rivalry had shifted. She no longer saw him as weak or laughable. She saw a warrior worthy of respect, and perhaps even a potential ally. As Marcus exited the arena, the sunlight of Zithara reflected off his armor, casting a strong shadow behind him. The duel had ended, but the impact of his actions would resonate through the council and among the Elythians for a long time. Marcus had faced ridicule, danger, and skepticism, and he had emerged not only victorious but respected. Lyra followed him with her gaze, thoughtful. She had laughed at him once, certain of his weakness. Now she could not deny it. This human warrior had proven himself, and she would never look at humans the same way again. The day after the duel, the council chamber was alive with discussion. Marcus Hale had proven himself in the arena, but the elders were still debating what role a human could play among the Elythians. Some were cautious, still unsure if his strength and intelligence would hold in more complex situations. Others, inspired by his courage and adaptability, saw potential for a new alliance. Marcus entered the chamber quietly, observing the council from the center of the room. He had learned that patience was just as important as skill. Even the strongest warrior could falter if they acted too quickly without understanding the situation. Today, he would continue proving that humans were not only capable of surviving trials, but also contributing meaningfully to Elythian society. Lyra was present, though her expression had softened from skepticism to quiet curiosity. She had spent the night thinking about the human warrior and the lessons he had taught her without speaking a single word. Now she could no longer ignore the truth. Marcus had a mind and heart unlike any other being she had met. The council announced the next exercise, a simulation of a planetary crisis. A colony on the outskirts of Elythian space faced a series of environmental disasters, combined with a threat from hostile forces. The challenge required coordination, strategy, and quick thinking. Marcus was paired with several Elythians, some of whom had been critical of him in the past. As the simulation began, Marcus immediately assessed the situation. He listened carefully to the Elythians' suggestions, noting which strategies might work and which might risk lives unnecessarily. Using his human intuition and knowledge of logistics, he organized the team, assigning roles based on each member's strengths. While some Elythians initially resisted his guidance, they soon realized that his decisions were precise, efficient, and focused on achieving results while minimizing risk. Lyra observed silently, her amber eyes tracking every move. She noted how Marcus communicated clearly, calmly, and respectfully. He did not demand obedience. He earned cooperation through logic and integrity. She had never seen such a combination of courage and humility in any warrior, and she felt a quiet admiration growing inside her. The simulation tested more than strategy. It challenged morale. Sudden obstacles arose, power failures, natural disasters, and unexpected enemy movements. Some Elythians panicked, unsure how to respond. Marcus remained calm, analyzing the situation, proposing solutions, and guiding the team to act decisively. Each problem was met with a thoughtful, measured response, demonstrating that humans could adapt quickly under pressure. By the end of the exercise, the team had successfully stabilized the colony, repelled threats, and minimized casualties. The Elythians involved looked at Marcus with new eyes. Respect replaced doubt, and even admiration began to show among those who had once mocked him. Lyra approached him after the simulation, her tone cautious but sincere. "You think in ways we rarely do. Humans are not just strong or clever. You understand balance, consequence, and care. It is unusual." Marcus smiled slightly. "We have to," he replied simply. "We cannot rely on age, power, or fear. We rely on each other, our minds, and our choices. That is how we survive and succeed." Lyra considered his words carefully, realizing that he had not only proven himself in combat, but had also demonstrated a philosophy of leadership and cooperation that even the Elythians could learn from. Elder Queen Serathine rose from her seat, her voice calm but commanding. "Marcus Hale has shown more than skill in the arena. He has shown wisdom, honor, and an ability to inspire those around him. It is clear that humans, though short-lived compared to us, possess qualities that are rare and invaluable. Let this council recognize his contributions and consider the role humans may play in our future." The council members murmured, nodding in agreement. Some were still cautious, but the momentum had shifted. Marcus had demonstrated not only strength and intelligence, but also leadership, compassion, and the ability to unify disparate individuals toward a common goal. Even Lyra, who had once laughed at him, could no longer deny the truth. This human warrior deserved recognition. As the session concluded, Marcus stepped out into the sunlight of the palace courtyard. The twin suns reflected off his armor, casting long, steady shadows behind him. For the first time, he felt the weight of true influence. Humans were not just observers or outsiders in Elythian society. They could be partners, advisors, and leaders. Lyra watched him from above, her thoughts turning over what she had learned. She had entered this experience certain of her superiority, ready to laugh at a human's weakness. Now she saw someone who combined courage, intelligence, and honor in ways she had never expected. Marcus Hale had not only survived the trials, he had begun to shape the future of Elythian-human relations, and perhaps the future of the galaxy. Marcus looked toward the horizon, his mind already planning the steps ahead. Challenges would continue, more difficult than anything he had faced so far. Yet he had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not mere survival. It was the ability to adapt, to lead, and to inspire respect through action. As he walked through the courtyard, he felt a quiet satisfaction. The path had been difficult, but it was only the beginning of what humans could achieve in a universe that had once doubted them. The council chamber was filled with a rare energy that day. Marcus Hale had proven himself in the arena, survived every test, and earned the respect of many Elythians. But today the council would make a decision that could shape the future of both humans and Elythians. Marcus entered the chamber quietly, standing in the center as the Elder Queen Sarathine's eyes met his. Her calm gaze held approval and anticipation. Lyra was present as well, sitting tall, her usual confidence softened by newfound respect. She had laughed at Marcus once, certain he was weak, but that laughter had long since faded. Now she watched him closely, curious about what he would do next. The Elder Queen's voice echoed clearly. Marcus Hale has demonstrated courage, intelligence, and honor. He has earned not only our respect but our trust. Today we must decide the role humanity will play in Elythian affairs, the council members murmured. Some were cautious, still questioning whether humans could adapt to Elythian traditions. Others, impressed by Marcus's actions and leadership, spoke in favor of granting humans a new position within their society. Marcus remained calm, listening to their discussions. He had no desire to dominate or boast. He wanted cooperation, understanding, and a partnership built on respect. After a long debate, the council reached a decision. Elder Queen Sarathine's voice rang out again, firm and clear. Humans shall be granted the right to serve as advisors, strategists, and partners in our endeavors. They will be included in discussions of defense, exploration, and diplomacy. Let this day mark the beginning of a new era of cooperation and understanding between our peoples. The chamber erupted with murmurs of surprise and approval. Marcus bowed slightly, acknowledging the Queen's words. He understood the gravity of this moment. Humans had often been underestimated, dismissed as fragile or short-lived. Now they had a chance to contribute meaningfully to an advanced and respected civilization. Lyra approached him after the council session. Her expression was calm, but her amber eyes held curiosity and admiration. I underestimated you, she admitted quietly. I thought humans were weak and short-lived. I was wrong. You have proven that strength comes in many forms, not just speed or longevity. You have courage, intelligence, and honor. Marcus nodded, offering a small smile. Thank you. We rely on observation, teamwork, and careful decisions. We may be short-lived, but we adapt quickly and value the trust of those around us. Lyra considered his words, realizing that humans had qualities Elythians often struggled to understand. In the weeks that followed, humans began working alongside the Elythians in councils, training, and missions. Marcus shared knowledge from human tactics, strategy, and problem-solving approaches, helping the Elythians see situations in new ways. He learned their traditions, values, and philosophies, respecting them while also offering insights that combined human ingenuity with Elythian wisdom. Lyra became one of Marcus's closest allies. The rivalry that had begun with laughter and doubt transformed into cooperation and mutual respect. Together, they trained younger Elythians and humans, teaching them that true strength lay not only in power but in courage, intelligence, and teamwork. Elder Queen Sarathine watched these developments with quiet satisfaction. Marcus had done more than survive challenges. He had inspired a cultural shift, proving that humans were not inferior but capable partners. She had seen centuries of wisdom fail to influence younger Elythians, yet Marcus's simple courage and integrity had left a lasting impression. One evening, as the twin suns of Zithera dipped low in the sky, Marcus stood on a high terrace overlooking the city. The light reflected off the crystalline towers, casting long, warm shadows. Lyra joined him, silent for a moment as they watched the glow of the city below. You've changed a lot of minds, she said finally, not just through combat or strategy, but through your actions, your choices, and your integrity. Marcus looked out at the horizon, his expression calm and thoughtful. We can only show who we are by our actions, he said. Respect is not demanded, it is earned. And once it is earned, it lasts far longer than fear or power ever could. Lyra nodded slowly, understanding now that humans had something the Elythians often overlooked: resilience, courage, and the ability to unite diverse individuals through trust and honor. She smiled faintly, the gesture genuine, no longer tinged with skepticism or doubt. The Elder Queen's words echoed in Marcus's mind. Show him respect. It had been a command, a test, and ultimately a lesson for all. Marcus had shown that humans, though different and short-lived, could achieve greatness, influence cultures, and inspire change through courage, intelligence, and honor. As night fell over Zithera, the stars sparkled in the clear sky. Marcus felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that humans had earned their place among the Elythians. Challenges would come, as they always did, but the future looked bright. Humanity had begun a new chapter among the stars, not as outsiders or spectators, but as respected partners and warriors of honor. Lyra looked at Marcus one last time before turning back toward the city. The laughter that had once defined her perception of humans was gone. In its place was admiration, respect, and a recognition that one human warrior had changed everything. Marcus remained on the terrace, eyes on the stars, knowing that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and opportunities, but humanity had proven it could rise to meet them. And so, a new era began. A future of cooperation, respect, and shared strength, guided by courage, wisdom, and the enduring heart of a human warrior.